Good morning. It's what time is it anyway? Wow, it's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock, and it's time for me to speak to you again. Uh, you know, there's I, if you read the Bible, a lot of times it seems like it goes all over the place. Especially if you read Proverbs or something like that. It's like it doesn't seem to have a theme a lot of the time. It's like it'll talk about one thing and it'll talk about another thing, and I think that's the way my talks are supposed to go too. I have a lot of ideas, and I want to talk about many things. Uh, so I'm trying to think how I can maybe organize. I've been thinking a little bit about it. I have sort of a theme that sort of unifies everything. I wanted to talk about how wonderful a family is, and the way, uh, Satan doesn't like the family. He wants us. He didn't want us. One of the reasons, we get bodies, we come here, we're able to have sexual intercourse, we're able to have families. That's one of the main reasons we come here. And Satan wants for your family to be a failure. He wants you not to be, and to really mess things up is to mess up your sexual relationships, to mess up make it so you don't even have desires, or to make your desires for sexual intercourse to be unproductive, or and just to ruin your family in any way possible. And I thought I would talk a little bit about just how wonderful a family was. I came from a large family. I had 5 sisters and really devoted parents, and we lived in a big house. We lived in a house that, now when I started going to school, there were children that would, mention. Our house was the biggest house around. It was a 2-story house, and we had 4 bedrooms on the top, and 3 of my sisters lived in one of the rooms, my parents in another, and 2 of my younger sisters lived in one, and I had a room to myself. And a lot of the children in the neighborhood, children will they can be very unreasonable, and they would hate our family. I learned that many people just hated my father because he had a big house, and but we needed that house. We were cramped. We needed that big house, and my father worked very hard. We needed all those things, and my father was a very virtuous man, and so was my mother. To work so hard to provide us all. We all had nice things. We had nice clothes. We had new clothes. We had good food to eat. We had My parents always took care of our education. Everything that we needed, our parents would provide for us. Uh, uh, and they worked very, very hard to do it. They worked at great sacrifice, and they were the kind of loving parents that took great joy in making sure that we had good things. And if we learned anything well, if we did well in school, if we developed any talents, my 3 of my sisters learned to play the violin, and my one of my next older sister learned to play she learned to play the piccolo, she learned to play the flute, she learned to play the violin, she learned to play the piano, and she could have been a concert pianist, but she didn't want to perform. And she learned to play the organ too. There was a church nearby where my mom would drive her down, and she could play the organ. She was anything that we could do. And my sisters were always getting good grades in subjects in school, and my parents would just celebrate over all that. We'd talk about it at dinner time and how proud my dad was of them. Uh, and there are these wonderful things that will go on in our family. One thing that goes on that I think many people have no idea about, that I thought I would talk about. When my sisters got to be a certain age, especially my 3 older ones, my mother taught them how to brush their hair. Now, when you have long hair, you have to brush. You can comb it, but that makes it snag and that gives you frizzies. And my sisters, so you need to brush it, and you need to brush it every night. You have to brush it out every night, or it gets full of knots. And my mother, she cared about her sisters, and she wanted them to be pretty. And of course, what mother or father doesn't want their daughters to be pretty? And she taught them to brush their hair. Now, when somebody's running their fingers through their hair, and that hasn't happened to me recently, but but when someone's running their fingers through your hair, it's hard not to talk about things. I mean, like if somebody's giving you a massage or whatever, you start talking to them about things, and there, my sisters would talk about absolutely everything. They would talk about boys. They would talk about just everything in their lives, and there would be all this laughter and giggling and just personal talk, between the three of them in this room, and it was just kind of a very, even if you weren't a part of it, even if you were in the next room or you might be passing by, it was a source of joy, I mean, to have this tittering, this cheerful chatter, and it happened every night because they would have to comb their hair, and it's a very laborious thing that they'd have to brush their hair out for quite some time, to really get all the knots out and stuff like that, and it takes quite a bit of work. But they were so cheerful, and it was such a. And my mother was always wanting to. My mother was the kind of person that would nurture that kind of environment. And she came from a family that was like that herself. She had what was it? She had came from the same kind of like she had one brother and four sisters, and and she came from that. I can see in my mind's eye, I mean, her. She and her sisters would comb each other's hair at night, and they would be very tight. My sisters are very tight, and they were very tight with my mom. It was a very wonderful thing. And there, when I was, I've written about this story online before. When I was living in Hotchkiss, Colorado, at one point I met a couple who said that I could camp out on their land, and they told me, they said, if you want, you could get a trailer if you wanted, and I said, I was like, oh, okay. So I put an ad in the paper and I said, I'm looking for if you have a used trailer on your property and you want to get rid of it, I'll tow it away for you. And this Mennonite family answered my ad and said, yeah, we've got one, come and get it. And they told me where it was, so I came to get it. Now, a lot of people think these Mennonites are really straight-laced and really severe, kind of people, and they're just, you have to. They're very serious, and they they don't know anything about sexual intercourse or to be happy or anything like that. Anyway, I don't want to be titillating or anything, but that's something. Anyway, a lot of people look at them that way. And so anyway, I went down there, and I didn't realize, I was too young to realize what was going on at the time, but the guy who was, their father was there, their mother was there, all these girls were there, and they had a family they had 8 children. And they were all my age, they were all around my age, all the brothers and sisters. And these guys, I was too young, I didn't realize what was going on, but what was going on was they thought that I was, the Mennonites all want their kids to get married, they want their kids, and what it is it's a very small community, and it's hard to find children, it's hard to find companions for their children, and they were eyeing me in that way, and this guy, the guy who was the father, he thought I was all right. I mean, he thought we hadn't even talked much, and he thought I was all right, because see, what it is they run a lot of farm equipment. That's what they do, that's how they make their, how they make their money. And he knew that if I had this I had this really old truck. It was just it wasn't really a piece of junk, but it was a good old International Harvester truck, and it had a granny gear in it. And I knew enough about heavy equipment. I worked in the oil. I worked, drilling oil in a cable tool rig for my stepfather, and worked with plenty of heavy equipment. And I knew enough about heavy equipment to know that I could tow away this trailer. It was a big trailer, And what it is you get one of these slow moving vehicle placards, and you paste it on the back. And see, it was a farming community, so this kind of thing was going on all the time. So even though I couldn't go very fast, it was several miles to where I lived. If I towed this thing, if I towed this thing with this truck, I knew I could get there. I was going to be really slow. I was going 15 miles an hour, but it didn't matter. I was going to get it. And this guy, he looked at me and he figured, this guy, he knows enough about heavy equipment to run a farm. And this guy could be a really good son-in-law. He could take care of one of my daughters. And he thought, hey, this guy's all right. He didn't even know a thing about me, but he said, well, he knows how to run heavy equipment. He knows enough to do that, and he has initiative. He's the kind of person. And the thing was, they were living in it was very interesting. They were living in one of these log homes that's the old style log homes, and this trailer was alongside of it. And see, they kind of homesteaded their property. And the thing is, these people, they were such a. Now, the other thing about them that I learned, like, they invited me to stay for lunch. They were hoping, I'd stay for lunch and kind of get to know their girls. And the thing about them, they were just really, really nice people. Really hospitable. Just reminded me of my own family. And these girls, they're just like my sisters. They're just chittering and giggling and all chatting and stuff, and all very chatty and very friendly amongst each other. And they're really just wonderful. And it just reminded me so much of my own family. So that's what's going on in this home, and they're inviting me to lunch and everything, and so they really, I was too young to figure it out. There's so much in life I figure out. You when you look back on it, you realize what's happening and stuff like that. And they were all very pretty, and they had and in their home, I think they normally don't do this, but they know that their hair is when you see them in public, they generally don't have their hair let down, but I've seen some of them will let it down. But they all had their hair let down, and they were all very long hair and pretty girls. And anyway, that's what reminded me about these. I thought about my own family. What a wonderful thing it is to have a family. What a wonderful thing it is to have a woman in your home that cultivates this kind of thing. That cultivates a happy relationship between her daughters, and wants them to be pretty, and wants them, and just is really tight with them. And many people don't see this kind of thing, and it's a very wonderful thing. And I think if people only knew they just had such a happy family. Anyway, the other thing is, they lived in this log home, and this trailer was alongside it. Of course, they wanted to get rid of the trailer. But the thing was, you could tell. Now, a lot of people would think, you live in this log home and it's awful. It looks like, you're poor. They didn't look at it that way at all. They thought it was exciting. They lived the way that their ancestors lived, that homesteaded. And the other thing was, they were stinking. They never said it, but they were stinking rich. A lot of these Mennonites, they're hard workers. And they when they go out and farm or whatever it is they do, they work. And they work for their money. And they know how to farm, and they're serious about it, and they get out there and do it. They homesteaded on that property, and they loved it. They were happy. It was exciting for them. They felt that was how their ancestors lived, and they thought it was a very exciting thing. A lot of Mennonites live in nice homes, because they can afford them, and they know how to build. The other thing is that they know how to build them themselves, and they build them old style. Like they build them with lumber and use joints instead of nails, and use good materials, not like we use today in most of our homes. Like the homes we live in today aren't going to last like the homes that they know how to build. But anyway, it just what a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing to experience, and what a compliment to have these people think that I'm some kind of worthwhile, potential companion for their pretty young daughters. And of course, anyway, I don't want to focus a whole lot on how pretty some women are, but if you take care of it's just a cheerful thing. The women that make now it was a very homey place. Now I'll go. If you take someone like my mother, I mean my mother, she could take. We go to a garage sale. I remember I was living with them at one time. Her and me and my stepfather, and we go to a garage sale. And my mom would just buy stuff that looked like junk. I remember she wanted to buy this. She bought this rug, and it was part of it was torn, and I was just like, good grief, what is she? She's buying all this junk, what is she gonna do with it? And she took it home, and she draped it. This rug, she cleaned it, and she draped it over one of our couches, which was all torn and was just a mess. And then she tucked in. She has an eye for. She's an artist. My mother is an artist when it comes to homemaking, and she tucked in part of the torn part of it under something so you couldn't see it, and all of a sudden this couch looked just beautiful, and she had bought all these things that were just junk, that you seemingly junk, but they were all Native American type stuff, and they were all used. And she cleaned them up, and she put them in around the house, and it just looked had kind of a Native American motif to our home, and it was beautiful. I mean, what wonderful things women can do. They can do wonderful, wonderful things. And my stepdad, we were at the garage sale. I was telling my stepdad, what? Are you going to let her buy all this junk? She's talking about putting this junk around our home. And my stepfather is like, he's got like vision. He just saying, hey, listen, this makes her happy. I don't care. Just shut up. Just shut up and let her do what she wants to do. And everything will be okay. And he's the kind of person that believes in my mom. He's the kind of person that brings out, what in my mom, what's gonna, bring out her, the things that she brings into the world. And she's always made a beautiful home. She's always made a beautiful home for her children to visit in, for the guests that she and my stepfather have, and for my father. She always made a wonderful, beautiful home. She's an artist when it comes to doing that kind of thing, and a great success. Now, let's see. I was going to talk about some other things I wanted to get to. Let's see. I was going to talk about. I get so upset. When you're my dad would tell me stories about when he was a kid. He'd go into, he would. The other thing was you're allowed to work at that age. If he lived in the city and they had streetcars and he could go all over town. And his mom would let him go all over town, and if he wanted to go to see the movies, he would go. They would back in those days, they didn't. You could see a triple feature, and he the thing is he'd find some kind of work to do. He'd go around his neighbors. And knock on doors and stuff and say, hey, can I do anything around your home? And can you pay me to do a little something or other? And he'd get a little money together. He'd get a quarter. They call it 2 bits back then. And then he'd go, that'd be enough money for him to get a streetcar and go over to the movie house and watch a triple theater. And watch, and that was kind of, he could, entertain himself and have some fun. Now, the thing is, now you're going, I don't know, what does it cost, $20 to go to a movie these days? And when you're a kid, see, the thing is, I have memories of that too. I would walk a mile down to the store and get a candy bar for a nickel. And now it's like $1. The same candy bar today costs $1.25. I think it's 25-fold increase. And the thing is, when you're old like me, you realize that our nation is being slowly undermined. The economy is slowly getting worse and worse and worse. There were kids. See, you could go to a gas station. The gas stations would sell. There were gas stations that sold nothing but gas and would stay in business. Now it's like they can't stay in business with just selling gas anymore. And you pump the gas. They would have, that movie Back to the Future. There's one story in it. There's one part in the story where there's this guy pulls into a gas station, and four boys come out of the gas station and start servicing his car. They would check the oil. They would wash your windows. They would and all these boys just come rushing out. I've only seen 3 actually do it in my lifetime. That they were trying to emphasize a point in that movie of how things were different. But they could afford to they could make money that way. Kids could make money doing something like that, and the business could make money. And the other thing is when they would hire. The other thing is when you would go to the gas station, they would pick young children, teenagers that were friendly. That were service oriented. They would come up to you and say, "Hello, Mr. Cole." They would go to my dad. "Hello, Mr. Cole. Hello, Mrs. Cole. How are you today?" I mean, they knew you. A lot of people, they go to the gas station because they like the help there. They say, "Oh, he's such a nice boy," and they say, "Would you like us to check your oil today?" And it's like we're just dying to check your oil, Mr. Cole. That's how they were. That's how things were really different. And back then, there was this car, 1965, there was this car, it was like the Mustang, they call it the Mustang, and they still have the same car today, and it had a 302 engine in it. Now, I'm an engineer, and I've always been interested in cars, so I know about these kind of things. And there are still many young people today, it's always been that way. If you look back in Jane Austen's novels, one of her novels talks about these boys, and they're very interested in their carriages, their horse carriages, and they all want to take the girls out for a ride in their horse carriages, like today. Boys want to. The boys are like that. Anyway, there was this car that was a Mustang, and you could buy it for, I don't know what it was like, $2,000 or $3,000, and it was a sports car. It had a 302. It had a V8 engine, and it could barely fit inside the engine compartment. It was so big, and it was so much power to have behind this little tiny car. And it was a sports car, and it was set up. And it had a great suspension, and it could corner really well. And kids wanted to have it, and you could buy it. It was like a hot rod, but it was already tricked out, and you could buy this thing. And there were kids. You could be some kid. Some teenager who was, maybe, service oriented, and you could get a job in a service agent and work for a couple of summers. He's still in high school and buy a car like this. That's what the economy is like. That was what it was like. And nowadays, what do they want? Like, how much money do they want for a car? $60,000, $80,000. And the prices of things, they're just crazy. And of course, things are just and the thing is, it's like it's a piecewise. Our economy is just going piecewise downhill. There were all kinds of kids that were like service oriented, and they would raise their kids to be service oriented and work hard and be friendly to people and be like, "Hey, Mr. Cole, can we check your oil? Oh, we want to check it. We're dying to check your oil, Mr. Cole. Let us wash." They would do things like they would wash the inside of your windows too. If you wanted to get out of your car, they would wash the inside too. They would wash the windows, and they wouldn't. Like a lot of people, they won't wash their own windows anymore. They would do things like they wash every window in the car. Like we'd be in the back seat or something, and they'd be servicing the car, and we say, "Dad, have them wash the windows on the side. They're dirty," and they'd be like, "Sure, Mr. Cole, we'll be happy to." and it'd all be Mr. Call, Mr. Call, and they would be, and they would know things. We'd know these kids, that they our parents would just would really like these kids. They remember their names, and it was really something. Our economy's just going downhill, and it's like when you guys are my age, and I'm talking to you younger people, you'll be if things are you'll say this, you'll be saying the same things. I can't believe how much things cost anymore, and the government, and the other thing is, there are people that are out there, they're economists and smart people. They try to come up with an index for an inflation index to say, a realistic one, because the government lies. It's the government's fault that our money is worth nothing, because they're the ones that are printing up more of it and devaluing it. And what they want to do is they want to tell everybody, everything's, it's not our fault. Yeah, and the other thing is they have this idiotic that they're teaching, these idiotic economics, that if government spends money, if government prints up money and makes more money, it's going to, improve the economy. It's like, sure, it improves the economy for the people that are printing it up. For the people that are printing it up, the government jobs, they're spending it. This worthless dollars that they're printing up and undermining everybody else's life. Sure, it helps them. It doesn't help you and me. How are you going to save money for your retirement if these people are devaluing it constantly? It's like your money. If you just sit on it, it's worth less and less and less and less, and that's the way it's going to be. And it's been getting worse and worse and worse with every generation. And you can kind of trace it back to the Federal Reserve, like when they first started printing money. That's when the really great inflation really started taking place. So we need to get rid of that. Anyway, it's important to realize this. I hate this. I hate this, that all our money is being, and it really it undermines the family. It undermines all of us. We're all and we have all these crooked people in our government. And they're saying things like, "Oh, we can't get rid of the Federal Reserve. It's impossible. We can't get rid of Social Security." If we did these things, what would happen? We'd be rich. We'd be rich. We'd be rich like we used to be. And Thomas Sowell talked about this. How long would it take for the economy to cover? It wouldn't take very long at all. It would take a few years. It's an absolute mess. And there are all these crooks in government. And why is it that our economy is so bad? Government and I'm talking about the federal government mostly. Government has done nothing but gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. They don't produce anything. They waste money, and they want to hire all these people in government. What they all want is more money. It's like they want the government to get bigger. That's all they want. And these people, and they'll say things like, "Oh, private business is your enemy. They hate all of us. They're greedy." How is it not greedy to take more and more of your money away from you that you've worked for? Is it greed for someone to take away money from someone that has worked for their money? Or is it greed to steal? These people are the ones that are impoverishing us. These people are the ones to blame. These people in government, and what it is they're just getting to be so big. And when I was working at Boeing, there were, when you go to school, an engineering school, if you have a talent for it. I have a talent for engineering. I like it. I enjoyed it. I have skills. I have talents that go along with with engineering. I understand computers. I'm good at mechanical things. I'm good at fixing mechanical things. Oh, good grief! When I was at Boeing, I used to go around people, and I was trying to get a feel for. I would try to get them to betray themselves. For if these people are mechanically inclined, I would ask, and I found out they're all afraid to look underneath the hood of their car. Engineering is the whole discipline of engineering grew out of when there was this guy. His name was Watts, or no, I think it was, maybe it was Watts. I think, and he invented the steam engine, and he wanted to come up with a way to measure the power of his steam engine. He figured out, and he set up some pulleys, and he hooked one up to a horse, and he figured that a horse could lift a certain amount of if you set these pulleys up right, so that the horse could lift this weight that he had set up by running in a certain direction at a certain speed. If you could lift a weight at a certain speed, that represented a horsepower. He came up with the unit of. Actually, I'm not exactly sure if I got the names right, but anyway, that was how engineer. I'm not sure if it was Watt or not, but anyway. He came up with this unit of energy to measure how much power an engine had. So he could say, because then they could do things like compare different engines. Say, well, this engine has this much horsepower, and this engine has this much horsepower. Everybody's very interested in the horsepower of engines. If you want to make a more powerful engine to do things. So anyway, I have a talent for it, and I was good at drafting. I was particularly good at drafting. I was good at math. There are all these things that go into it, and you find out, like I already wrote about it. There are all these people. They go into a field because their parents know somebody who is in an industry who can get them a job. And there are all these people that are in engineering that have absolutely no talent or love of it. And that's okay. I don't hate them for that. But there are all these people that are in engineering that are in it for the money, and they have absolutely no talent for it and no understanding of it. When I got out of, you would get through a class in college, and then all the kids would sell their books. I saved all my books. I figured, my goodness, I'm going to need this information in my job. And these kids would they would take the books and sell them or throw them out, and they'd say, that's the last time I'm ever going to study this. It's like, and they hate it. It's like they have a disdain for what's going to be their income. They're not into something that they enjoy or anything. And when I was at Boeing, they have all these engineers, and it's sort of run by the people that my impression of it, of how things work there, is it's all the people who make the decisions are the ones that know how to make a deal, how to make a business deal, how to exchange money for airplanes. And what it is there are many more engineers than they need. And what it is because what it is, they don't want the engineers exchanging the people that know how to make a deal. And the thing is, I would say they don't know how to make a deal, but the people who are in charge of making deals, they want to keep. They have this goose. If you ever, sometimes you might meet a salesman. They have this idea of the goose who lays the golden egg, and it's an old nursery rhyme or an old fable. And what is, you don't want the goose that lays the golden egg to know how valuable he is, because then they'll start making the deals, and you won't be able to make them. So they want to keep the engineers out of it. That's why they have so many engineers, so that, and they do something like like in the projects. I was in a different area of the outfit, but what they'll do is, like, they'll give, in aircraft structures, they'll give somebody like a job. Say, it's your job. We're going to give you a piece of the airplane, and this is what you're supposed to design. And it's a homework. Like if you were in college and it was a homework problem, it's the kind of problem that would take you maybe 3 days to figure out and do. But what it is they give you like a year to do it. And it's like, you look at this problem and you're like, you're some young person out of college, and you look at this problem and say, you only want me to do this? And of course, but you don't say that out loud, because you don't want them to think, you don't want them to think, you're, because they're giving you this job and they're giving you all this money, and you're not doing anything. You don't want them to realize that, hey, this is the cushest job I've ever had. This is incredible, and they give you this job. but what it is like these people who are making the deals, they can ask for a whole lot more money than they could get, because the people they're selling these things to, the airlines, they don't know anything about aircraft manufacture. They don't know you could make these things a lot better or a lot cheaper or much, much, much more cheaper. I mean, the whole problem with this is that the effect of all this mismanagement is that airplanes cost tons more than they have to. They're just like cars. They cost tons and tons more money than they have to, and they're ruining our economy. And the thing that keeps one of the things that keeps Boeing and the aircraft manufacturers in business. I'm really getting off a tangent here, but I'll come back around to the point I was trying to make. But what it is now I can't remember what I was going with the tangent. You're going tangent and everything. You're going. Gee whiz, how long can I keep you? I wonder how long I could keep you guys listening. While I'm trying to figure out where I was going with all this. Anyway, these guys. Well, I'll go where I was going. Anyway, there was this manager. See, the thing is like the people there are all these people, in engineering that they just don't have any passion for it, but they want to make a lot of money. And we had this manager, and nobody wanted to talk to him in our unit, in our group. He was this guy that see, the thing is like our I don't want to explain everything about it, but what it was he wanted to make all the people underneath him into managers. And that's all he wanted to talk about. And the other thing is, this guy, if you want to talk to him about anything, he won't talk to you. He's always like, well, I've got to go out of the office. I've got to go to a meeting. That's how he is every time and he's ready to go. He doesn't want anything to do with anyone. He doesn't want, and he doesn't really have a love. And all the people in the group, most of the people in the group who are engineers, what they want to do is they want to make more money too, but they want to ascend in the organization due to merit. They want to be good engineers. They figure, well, if I can be a good engineer, I ought to deserve more money, and that's how they want to ascend in the organization. But this guy, what he wants is everybody to become a manager. See, if everybody underneath him becomes a manager, then they have to get paid the kind of money that a manager gets paid. And what it is as well, then if he's employing a bunch of people that are making money, then he has to get more money too. And it's like this guy, it's like he's an engineer, but he doesn't want to be an engineer. He wants to be a money maker. He wants, and there are all these people. See, the analogy I'm making. See, if there are people, in a company like Boeing, what can happen is they can go out of business. If they have enough stupid people like this manager working for them, and it's really ruining everything. If it gets to the point where the price of the aircraft is so expensive that nobody can afford to buy it, they'll go out of business, and some other company will rise up and take their place. That there are still lots of engineers that know how to make airplanes, and they might go to work somewhere else. So it's great, like private industry is really great that way. But if you're in the government, what happens is you get all these people, and there are lots of corrupt people in the world, and there are lots of corrupt people like this manager. All they care about is money, and they have no love of engineering. They don't care about ascending in the organization by on their merits as engineers. That they'll do it by hook or by crook or by any way they can. And there are all these people in government that are the same way. They just want let's hire more people. Let's take away people's money and give it to other people, and we'll take a big chunk of it ourselves. And that's how they think. They don't care. It's like I told you. There are these people. When you're working in one of these bureaus, government bureaus, everybody from the boss to the guy who cleans the toilet. Just talk to these people. Talk to them if you know any of these people. They know all the talk. You can't get rid of Social Security. Our country would be it's impossible. They'll tell you it's impossible. And it's like there are all these bums, all these crooks, all these people that are looking for a scam, and they think that hey, being a government official is the best scam you can get into. You can just keep taking away from the private sector and lying to the public and telling them that you're going to give them something, and it can go on forever. It's not going to go on forever. Anyway, there are people like that. When you get into industry, when you get into the private sector, or when you get into working for government, you find out there are all these people that are like that. They don't care. They don't care if they're wasting money. They don't care about merit, but they'll defend the organization that they work to the end. It's like their life depends on it, and their life does depend on it. They've been working all their lives for the government because they have a buddy there that they have somebody there that'll hire them, and they do, and they all defend each other. They all defend taking away everybody else's money, and they'll do, and there's a whole economy of people that defend it. And there are people in the media. We've got to. We need to hate the rich people, hate the businesses. They're so greedy. And hey, when isn't it greedy to be taking away other people's money who worked for it? When these people, that work at the government, they're greedy, and they make it seem as if the media and these people in the government, and the people that are running for office, they're making it seem like the people in business are robbing you. And the people in government are the ones that are robbing you. They're talking about arming the people in the IRS, and the people that tax you, people that collect. They're talking about arming those people. It's like they're the ones that are taking away your money by force. We need to do something about them. We need to stop these people that are taking away your money, and the other thing, Thomas Sowell will tell you this, and other people will tell you this. They tax rich people more at a higher percentage than they tax poor people, but in history has shown when they tax the rich people less, closer to what they're taxing everybody else, they collect more money. The government collects more money in tax revenues, and that's because people who are rich know how to invest their money to make more. So what ends up happening is when you tax the rich less, the government ends up collecting more money. Because the rich people are making more money, and it's good for the economy. But if you're some communist that wants to take over the world, then what you want is to weaken our economy and tax the rich. But and the other thing is, there are these people in government that they're looking for some. It sounds good too. These rich people are taking away your money, and we have to punish them. For being rich, we have to hate them. We should hate big business, and we're going to protect you against them. And it gets them elected. Then it gets the media behind the communists and the media behind them, and they know they can get elected and get some cush job and get in the revolving door of Washington bureaucracy. So anyway, we need to get rid of these things. These people. They need to get to. These people need to lose their jobs to get into that private sector. And the other thing is, these people, they're all afraid these people, if we could get them out of government, they would have to get into the economy and do something worthwhile. Something that where they deserve to have money. They deserve to get paid well for, and then our economy would take off. It's all this misunderstanding and people that want to take over the world that are the cause of all this trouble. Anyway, God bless you. Thank you for listening, and I hope you're having a good day. And don't waste. And just think, you spent 45 minutes listening to me talk about what's going on. Who am locked away and can't really know what's going on. Who the mainstream news is doing their best to keep from knowing what's going on. And I've told you more about what's going on than they in the world than they did. So today's been an educational day for you, and you haven't wasted as much time as watching the mainstream news as you normally do.